Hey everyone, welcome back. Have you ever used Buy Now, Pay Later? You know, those services that let you buy whatever you want and then pay in 2, 4, or even 10 months. No interest, no problem. Sounds amazing, right? You get what you want now and your bank account doesn't even feel it at first. But here is the catch. It completely messes up the number one rule of money, which is if you spend less than you earn, you will be rich. But if you spend more than you earn, you will be broke. That's it. No magic, no secrets, just simple math. And you don't need to be a sophisticated investor to understand that. The second problem, once you start using these services, you are stuck. Why? Because your future paychecks will go straight to paying off past purchases. Then when new expenses come up, you won't have the cash. So you will use Buy Now, Pay Later again and again and again. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. And the third problem, small installment payments give you a false sense of financial strength. With just $100 in your pocket, you can buy a lot of things as long as the installment is small. And this makes you more willing to buy things you don't really need just because the price seems cheap due to the low monthly payment. From here, you fall into the easiest and stupidest trap, which is living a lifestyle beyond your actual financial capabilities. For example, say your financial situation doesn't allow you to buy an iPhone that costs $2,000. You know this because you are aware of your income and expenses, and either you can't afford it or you wouldn't spend that much money on a phone. But now imagine you are offered a deal. Pay in installments over 18 months with no interest. Suddenly your perspective changes. What once seemed unaffordable now feels within reach. And just like that, you have justified spending beyond your actual financial capacity. So maybe you have never used these services and open this video to know if they are worth it. Or maybe you are already in the cycle and don't know how to break free. Either way, this video is for you, because today I'm going to tell you about a guy who fell into this exact trap. And this isn't a story about someone from last year or even the last century. This happened thousands of years ago. It is from The Richest Man in Babylon book by George Clason. And this guy from the story didn't just lose money, he lost everything. His job, his wife, his family, even his freedom. But here is the nice part. He found a way, and not only did he escape, but he got everything back. So grab a cuppa or your favorite drink and let me introduce you to Dabasser. This guy was a camel trader, but honestly, he could be any one of us. He had dreams, responsibilities, and unfortunately, a lot of debt. He ignored his creditors, made excuses, and hoped the problem would somehow solve itself. But here's where things take a turn. Instead of just struggling with unpaid bills, he actually ends up as a slave in Syria. Yeah, a literal slave. So how did he get here? Well, his story starts out pretty normal. He was learning his father's trade, making enough money, nothing fancy, enough to get by. He had a wife and life was steady for him. But like a lot of us, he wanted more. And instead of waiting until he could afford it, he did what so many people do. He started buying on credit. At first, it seemed harmless. The shopkeepers were happy to let him buy now, pay later. And life was good. A well-decorated home. His wife had everything she wanted. But then reality kicked in. His income couldn't cover both his daily life and his debts. Remember the problems of buy now, pay later that I mentioned at the beginning? That is exactly what happened. Creditors started knocking. Even friends who had loaned him money wanted their money back. And in the end, his wife had to move back in with her father because he couldn't support her anymore. Can you imagine the shame, the frustration? And what do you think he did? He ran. Can you believe this? Instead of facing it, he just left Babylon. But running didn't solve anything. And here's where it gets crazy. He joins up with a group of desert raiders. Yes, actual bandits. They rob a caravan, spend all the money, and on the second raid, they get caught. Dabasser is thrown into slavery, sold in Damascus for 2 pieces of silver. Okay, now I know what you are thinking. You might be thinking, this is an ancient story. What does this have to do with me? But think about it. Swap out desert raiders for get-rich-quick schemes and slave markets for bankruptcy, and suddenly this story isn't so ancient anymore. While enslaved, Dabasser meets a woman named Sierra, and she says something to him that completely changes his mind. She asks, if a man has the soul of a slave, won't he always be one, no matter where he is? Let that sink in. She wasn't talking about physical slavery. She was talking about the mindset of being trapped by fear, by excuses, by avoiding responsibility. How many of us have let debt make us feel powerless? How many of us tell ourselves, I will never get out of this. This is just how life is. I am telling you, it's not. A lot of people live without debt, and it's a much better life. Then she says something that gives me chills. Your debt are your enemies. They chased you out of Babylon. You left them alone, and they grow too strong. If you had fought them head on, you could have conquered them. When was the last time you thought of your debts as enemies? You need to fight, not to avoid, not to run from. That was Dabasser's wake-up call. And when he escaped from slavery and found himself lost in the desert, he asked himself, do I have the soul of a slave or the soul of a free man? He realized that a slave would lie down and die, but a free man fights his way back home. And that's exactly what he did. And back in Babylon, Dabasser did something remarkable. He created a system that got him out of debt. And this is pure gold. He made a list. He made a full list of everyone he owed money to. No hiding, just brutal honesty. Then he divided his income into 3 parts: 70% for living expenses, 20% for repaying debt, and 10% for his future savings. He personally went to each creditor and said, I can't pay it all right now, but here is my plan. Here is what I can do. And you know what? They respected him for it. So let's put this into today's numbers. If you make, say, like 4,000 a month, 2,800 goes to living expenses, 800 goes towards paying off debt, and 400 goes into savings. This isn't about paying everything off overnight. It's about showing up and take control. It's about proving to yourself that you are not a slave to your debt. You are a free person who is handling it. So here's what I want you to do right now. Grab a piece of paper. Write down every single person or company you owe money to. No judgments, no shame, just facts. This is your first step toward freedom. And look, I get it. Facing your debt is scary. It was scary for Dabisar too. But remember what he learned in that desert. You have a choice. You can live with the soul of a slave, avoiding your problems, or you can have the soul of a free person and take back control. Your debt might not be coming after you with swords like Dabisar's enemies, but it's attacking your peace of mind, your future, your freedom. And just like him, you have the power to fight back. So drop a comment below what part of this story hit you the hardest. For me, actually, it was losing his parents and his wife. I hope you are ready to face your debts head on. And if this video helped you, hit that like button. It's free and will help us to grow. And subscribe for more deep dives into life-changing books. Thanks for your precious time, and please spend wisely, not wildly. And I will see you in the next one. Cheers.